It's Game Boy Works, and this is a stadium full of families or something. There comes a time in any chronology of a Nintendo console's library that all men or women must brace up and face the inevitable. A Family Stadium game by Namco. Pro Yakkyu Family Stadium, or Famista, has been the longest running and most enduring video game baseball franchise in Japan. The original launched for Famicom in December 1986 and has since seen dozens upon dozens of sequels and spin-offs, mostly for Nintendo consoles, but occasionally on competing platforms as well. It is one of those seemingly eternal series in Japan, like Momotaro Dentetsu or Derby Stallion, seeing annual releases in its home market and completely unknown elsewhere. Americans aren't total strangers to the series. Quite a few have shown up here through the years. It's just that they've done so under different names. Tengen localized the original as RBI Baseball, which was notable at first for being the first NES baseball game to feature licensed names from Major League Baseball teams. Then it was notable for losing its official Nintendo license after Tengen went rogue, and for its sequels not being adapted from the improved Japanese Famista sequels, but rather built around the original 1986 codebase for the first game. Later, the series made it to 16 bits under the name Super Batter Up for Super NES, and its non-Nintendo counterpart World Stadium made it to TurboGrafx 16. And then there was this lone Game Boy release, Extra Bases. Released under the title Famista in Japan, just plain old Famista, Extra Bases had nothing whatsoever to do with the 1980 Midway arcade release by the same title of Extra Bases. This was just plain old Family Stadium, aka RBI Baseball, aka yet another baseball game in the style of Nintendo's baseball. Little squatty dudes square off on the diamond, with players alternating between pitching and batting. You can adjust your batting stance slightly, modify your pitches before and during the throw, and control your fielders when the offense makes a hit. It's almost indistinguishable from Nintendo's game at first glance, though to Famista's credit, this Game Boy adaptation of an old NES release plays a lot better than the dire ball game Intelligent Systems turned out back at the system's launch. It's also a bit better than Tecmo's Bases Loaded for Game Boy. Not that these are particularly high bars to clear, but it is nice to see each successive release in this genre improve somewhat. Of the 3 baseball games to have appeared so far in Game Boy Works, Extra Bases seems the best balanced in its single-player mode. I still ended up getting skunked by the AI, but that's because I'm terrible at sports games. And it wasn't a total rout. The final score was reasonably close. While Extra Bases does very little that Game Boy's previous baseball releases didn't, it does throw in a few little details. After a few innings, your pitcher will start to wear out and need to be changed for a fresh replacement, a fact they'll demonstrate with their flop sweat. Otherwise, though, it's pretty much business as usual. Hold down as you pitch to throw a fastball, fiddle with the D-pad as the ball streaks toward home base for a curveball or changeup, or brush the batter back with an inside pitch. Once the ball is hit, the perspective and control switches to the fielders, all of whom are linked and move in unison. As always, this can be frustrating since the game automatically determines some of the fielder behaviors for you, which means that at times you'll intend for one team member to go after a ball, only to have him remain under computer control, while the rest of the team runs in the opposite direction from the ball. You can also theoretically steal bases, which never actually works, and the pitcher can theoretically check runners, which also never works. And that's about it. You play 9 innings unless there's a tie and you need to settle it in a 10th, and all the standard rules of baseball apply. I don't know, it's fine I guess. It's baseball and it does its thing. I'd recommend Extra Bases over Nintendo's Baseball or Bases Loaded, but like most sports games, it lacks anything that makes it worth revisiting 25 years later. Namco would produce several more Famista titles for Game Boy, but this is the only one that would ever reach the US. It's okay though, American Game Boy owners would have plenty of other baseball titles to choose from, so it's hard to imagine the series' continuing absence in the West was particularly grievous. Next on Game Boy Works, the moment I've been dreading arrives as I deal with my first pro wrestling game. Thanks for nothing, Hal.